do you think it's intentional that Griffith's dream is fairly thinly defined? Because he wants a kingdom. That is clear. That he makes very clear. But who's this kingdom in benefit of? Is it to help a certain set of people? Is it to give the Band of the Hawk a home? Well, what's the purpose of having this kingdom?
This kind of ties into the thing that we discussed before, where he wanted people to admire him, but his ideals have changed after seeing people close to him die. It kind of feels like even Griffith is unsure of what exactly he wants.
Because, for me, like, Guts' reasoning for leaving the Band of Hawk is that he doesn't want to be caught in Griffith's dream any longer. Guts, for much of his life, has wandered alone or worked alone, roving from battlefield to battlefield. So it makes sense that he would come around back to his original point of view eventually. And the way that people speak about Griffith, with this veneration, this almost like cult of personality that falls around him, like, none of them can accurately describe, like, why they want to see his dream come true other than for his sake. Like, none of the Band of the Hawk, for example, are given a fictional idea, like a make-up idea. Say, like, you don't have a member who says, like, I have 2 family members and I want Griffith's kingdom to come true because I know they would be safe under his protection, blah, 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 blah. We never get any concrete reasoning. It really does feel like a lot of them are living in a dream state that Griffith is creating. Even though their goal, like, for a kingdom is not so much for anything concrete as to help the people. I mean, Griffith, like, when he meets Casca, he doesn't, like, state to her, like, I'm gonna, prevent what happened to you for happening else. He just helps her indirectly.
Yeah.
And so I think that Guts is absolutely right to want to leave the Band of the Hawk, because in a way it almost feels like indoctrination.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think his dream is particularly noble or selfless, but I think that, people are drawn to the charisma. Like, he shines so brightly that other people are going to gravitate to his orbit and want to follow him for their own reasons. And perhaps that does help them, the kind of vague nature of it. They just want to
vague promise.
They want to
vague political promises, being given out by lead. I wonder how that's relevant today.
Well, they want to, of course, they want to benefit, personally. I think that's fine. Being on the winning side of things, that has its advantages and everything, but I think that just seeing him, like, people just fall in love with him and they want to follow him.
We're also talking about people that are professional mercenaries. So it's not like people are just taking up arms to join Griffith. We're talking about mostly professional mercenaries that either get caught in by the success and are definitely getting rewarded by sticking with Griffith, or it's the charisma kind of seals the deal.
Yeah. I think that, to bring up Casca for a moment, like, Casca, of course, is very, very loyal, like, almost fanatically so to Griffith. And that declines over time as when Guts returns, particularly. But it's not surprising that she feels that way, given the backstory she has with how she met Griffith. I mean, she only met him when she was 8 at a push. Does that sound
very small?
Very small, yeah. So to say what happens, actually, folks, to give you an idea, Casca was one of a couple of children in a farmer's town, like a very poor, very barren, fallow farmer's town, like living off the dirt. Nothing's their name. So one day, a lord from a nearby town comes through their village, sees Casca, takes a shine to her, and pays her father to take her away. Basically purchases her outright, which wouldn't surprise me was a not uncommon thing in, actual history, particularly Middle Ages or earlier. Certainly wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. And the Lord, because everyone's a shithead in this show, who's, with the exception...
You could just tell the way he's drawn. He just like
He really does. He really does.
A pedophile.
He really does look like Baron von Shithead. So he immediately tries to rape her, because of course. And Griffith intervenes.
Can't even wait till they're out of the carriage.
No.
Yes, he can't even wait. Like, he chases her around, and he can't even wait until they're back in the carriage.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just in full view of the driver.
Oh, Jesus.
But it kind of implies that that's
The norm?
that's either commonplace or that nobody would stop him because he's a noble person.
Given how Casca is treated by a lot of the men, particularly the antagonistic men in this show, yes. Unfortunately, that is how it is. Griffith intervenes, but he doesn't actually, as you might think, like if you're hearing this and having watched the show, just outright kill the guy. He, intervenes, says, "What are you doing?" And then he throws a sword down on the ground. And at this point, I think he might have possibly kicks the Lord away, because he's separated from Casca, he's not pinning her down anymore. And he says, "If you want to save yourself, here is the means. Do it." So he's actually testing her in a way, testing her resolve to survive. And it was not what I expected when I knew that he would come in and save her. I thought it was just simply going to be, run him through, here you go, that's that. So, even then, even when he's seeing a little girl being raped...
That'll be too typical.
Yeah, even when he's seeing a little...
Not mysterious enough.
Yeah, even when he's seeing a little girl being raped, he's not trying to stop the rape because it's morally outrageous. He is testing whose will is stronger.
Yes, and that's before the kid dies.
That's true.
And he already shows signs of just being interested in finding people that would be right for him.
Potential, yeah. But Casca, of course, being a young girl, she sees him as her saviour. And it's not surprising, given her age, and then what age she is when we catch up with Guts and such, that she would venerate him as much as she does, more so than I would argue anyone else. He was the one who empowered her. I think that Griffith is certainly one of the more interesting and complicated villains of the of any anime or anything I've ever seen, to be quite blunt.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely my favorite anime villain. Up there, the only challenger I can think of is actually a person in a similar mold. Reinhard von Lohengram from Legend of the Galactic Heroes is a charismatic, noble despot. But I think Griffith edges him out. His sheer character complexity and what have you.
Yeah. For me, Kira's pretty up there as well, I must admit. God, if you imagine those two working together. Ugh. Jeez. No, don't want to imagine. But
there's two fighting, though.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that JoJo's yet. Sad me.
You're horrible. I'm glad you agree.
Sumimasen.
Ah, dear. Gomedasai. But I think that for me, to answer the question in the end, I always think that Griffith was rotten, but I think that he just got more on. There's a relative thing here. I think that he was always never interested in the people he had under him as anything more than chess pieces. That's the way I see it. He might have...
I guess, I suppose we see the same trajectory but interpret it differently.
Yeah.
I just think that there was something in him all the way up until he sees Gus is betraying him and the eclipse and all that there was something in him that doesn't allow me to call him a rotten apple, that he's not through and through corrupted.
Yeah, a rotten apple is bad wording for it.
I think, I still think he is, because I think that because he doesn't see any human value in the people yet, they're weapons. They're no less weapons than the sword he wields.
But I would call that pragmatic more so than bad apple. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him, because of what... I mean, feeling sorry for Griffith, knowing the entirety of what he does is quite a thing to say, but at that point in the story, when you understand, kind of why like he sets himself apart. I don't think it's entirely for pragmatic reasons of like, well, not in the way you're going to say the same thing, I think, Morgalia, that I was, but I think some people might sort of see Griffith as like setting himself apart only to further cultivate his image as an idol. But I think it really is like because he's been wounded.
Okay. I think that for me, in the end, though, because his goal is just to have a kingdom for what feels like its own sake, if there was a more altruistic end to have him having this kingdom or this rule, then I would probably view him more favourably. But this is why I say that I think he is wrong, because he is manipulating and controlling people as chess pieces and not as people. We don't see him socialise with the Band of Hawk.
Yeah, no, he for sure.
That's my perspective.
That goes on.
That's my
no,
perspective.
that is, well, it's true. You're not wrong. You're certainly not wrong. I think like there's an undercurrent of destiny about this show, and certainly the God Hand is very explicit about it at the end.
Oh,
saying,
yes.
Like, the laws of causality are turning, are in motion, and like
in fact,
this has all happened according to fate.
That's in the opening of the show itself, when we have this little speech being given by what I think is one.
Yes.
By one of the God Hand.
What does it say? Like,
does man have his own free will, or is he chained to fate, or something to that effect?
Yeah, and so like, given that context, the fact that Griffith feels this primal desire to be king.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think like, I don't know, like, I guess I'm inclined to like view it less like he's being selfish or greedy or whatever, and more like this is like the hand that destiny has like bequeathed him. And so he feels a strong pull, much like you would feel like a pull, I don't know, to for a companionship or you know, any of those things that make you whole as a person.
You've been experiencing an excerpt from the Warui Deshou anime podcast. To get the full episode or any of our full episodes, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, visit our page on SoundCloud, or go to waruideshou.wordpress.com.